Are
Good
we ready to
morning.
start?
Yeah, let's do it. How's it going?
How's it going, Leo? Good to hear from you. All
Likewise.
right. Yeah. Well, I think this space, I know you have a pretty regular space yourself, and going through the details of runes, and I saw the big halving party. There was such good vibes there and so much excitement. So I wanted to just invite you to come over and join our community here, and hopefully we have some cross pollination. And Leo, it's so great to have you join us. I'd love to kick it off with just the headlines, right? We just witnessed the halving 3 days ago, the launch of Runes, probably the most profitable Bitcoin block ever mined, right? Block 840,000 with 37 Bitcoin in fees, something like 2.4 million today. And of course, so many new runes launching. The moment is finally here. How are you feeling, Leo?
Well, I feel like the Runestone community has three less Bitcoin because we put it in that block. But other than losing all that Bitcoin, I think the miners scammed us is what I think happened. I think they all took all of our money and I don't know. I don't know what happened, but somehow the miners convinced us all to just give them millions of dollars every 10 minutes. And I think they're the ones who really won out of all this.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, if the miners are winning, hopefully that means Bitcoin is winning as a whole as well, right? And of course, just to introduce yourself, Leo, a little bit to our community. I'm sure many from your community are also tuning in to listen. But Leo here, of course, is an OG from the Ordinals time, and now, of course, building. Well, firstly, having built Runestone, and now at the front seat at the dawn of runes with Doc Go to the Moon. Like, do you want to just give a quick rundown on, what have you been up to?
About 3 months ago, I put out a tweet and I had spent literally 5 minutes thinking about the idea. It was a very half baked tweet, and the idea was let's let's see if we can create this volunteer initiative for the OG Ordinals community to do an airdrop to itself and just do this massive, large scale airdrop for free and just have these runestones rain down on everybody's wallets. And we did it. Essentially, it took about 2 months to kind of get all of that set up. A bunch of different companies, people, developers helped out to make that happen, donors. We mined the largest Bitcoin block ever at the time and made the largest inscription ever, the Runestone. And then we did the largest Ordinals airdrop ever. It was extremely well received. I was really pleasantly surprised. So we, in a 26-day period, became the number 2 NFT collection in the world. And really, I think, hopefully helped bring a lot of attention and shine a light on this Bitcoin ecosystem. And then Runes just came out, and we etched Rune number 3. So we did the 5th most expensive Bitcoin transaction in Bitcoin's 15-year history to etch what we're calling Dog Go to the Moon, which is a meme coin. Okay, just to be clear, this is a non-utility project. It's purely the Ordinals community coming together to do something fun for itself. And Dog Go to the Moon, just more commonly referred to as Dog, is going to sort of be this kind of shit coin, meme coin, however you want to think about it. It's this adorable little dog in an orange hoodie with the Bitcoin logo on it. And the idea is, you know, I was, really thinking long and hard about how can we practically onboard an insane amount of people to the Ordinals Runes ecosystem, but also just to Bitcoin in general. And when you
Mm.
really think about it, it turns out like the most tangible path towards onboarding tens of millions of people here is to just have a massive meme coin. Everybody likes to make money. everybody loves number go up. This place is a giant casino on the internet, and meme coins are like the most honest, most fun, entertaining version of a game in that casino. And Dog is Bitcoin's sort of mascot, where, we think that if you have this multi-billion-dollar meme coin, it just serves as a magnet to suck people into this ecosystem and really get people
Mm.
holding a Bitcoin asset, a lot of them for the first time. And, we think through that we can onboard an insane amount of people to Bitcoin. And that's the entire goal, right? Obviously, reward the Ordinals OGs, number go up. That's why it all works. That's why the incentives work. But
Mm.
it is really about this larger vision of let's bring Bitcoin to all 8 billion humans on planet Earth, and let's play our role in helping to promote Bitcoin, the asset, and taking a different approach than the fiat collapse, central banking, quantitative easing narrative that does resonate with a lot of people around the world,
Mm.
but not everyone, right? Everyone loves cute little puppies, okay? And this is a new mascot where we can essentially take a different angle to marketing Bitcoin to people. And I think it'll be a really, really fun journey of having this new marketing approach for Bitcoin. And I'm really looking forward to just going on this journey and continuing this journey with you guys. It's been incredible. That dog token will be airdropped very shortly here to Runestone holders. We just did a snapshot that
Mm.
captured all the addresses, and magically, if you were part of that snapshot and held your Runestone, you'll just check your wallet one day, very, very shortly here, um, imminently, and you'll see Dog in it.
Awesome. I hear so much love for Bitcoin there, and a fun kind of spirit, right? Where like, hey, it's not too serious. We're just trying to onboard people to Bitcoin and get some number go up. Actually, I'm curious to hear your take, Leo, because there is quite a spectrum of people who look at this, I guess, innovation, and there are, I guess, like some more serious builders who are like, hey, we need to use this opportunity to like activate these different soft forks, upgrade the technology, build all these L2s. And then there are people who are like, oh, all of this doesn't make sense, but we're just going to collect fees. And then there are people having fun, building culture with ordinals and like having fun with memes. Where do you stand on this, right? Are you taking a more, personally, a more kind of like skeptical thing where, hey, all of this doesn't make sense, but you know what? It's getting us fees, it's getting us users, and that's all that matters? Or do you think we're actually moving towards something in the longer term here?
Bitcoin was introduced to the world about 16 years ago now. It's just a technology that we're in the early years of, I would say, still, because it's such a sort of civilization changing, massive scale technology that, we figured out, initially that you can use it as a current to basically keep the state of who holds what currencies and really have this permissionless network for money. And then more recently, we sort of started to experiment with other use cases for the technology. And I think a couple of those use cases proven out really by Ethereum and general purpose smart contracting blockchains like NFTs, like DeFi, that there's like real use cases, real product market fit for some other things you can do on blockchains other than just a single currency. Meme coins is one of them, for example. That whole thing has largely happened outside of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin really didn't participate in this in the last two cycles. And I think that's a little bit unfortunate because when I came to this space almost a decade ago now, I was mining Bitcoin on my laptop, right? I love Bitcoin. I think it's clearly like the coolest thing in this entire space, but I think it had to move a little slower because it had such a like Bitcoin needed to succeed that it couldn't take on the risk that maybe these other chains could. But now that we've proven out some of these use cases on other blockchains, like I think it's time to bring all of that over to Bitcoin and really level up those use cases. And I think that's an incredibly exciting moment to live through and get to be a part of in crypto. I think when you really go back 50 years from now and sort of write the history book on what happened, the lineage would be Satoshi creates Bitcoin. We have this digital store of value and money. And then, a couple years later, they figure out how to do smart contracts and do all of this more kind of advanced stuff in these different use cases. And then, a little while after that, all of that experimentation comes to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin just becomes the center of the universe of everything and becomes the most important state machine in the world, right? So I think we're really living through that transition of bringing the innovation to Bitcoin. And yes, the use cases can be looked on as silly. I think lots of people will look at meme coins, JPEGs as a very silly thing. But really, it's like this is just one of the early use cases. Gambling is one of the early use cases of a technology that we don't even fully understand. So that's incredibly exciting, and I think it's going to onboard a ton of people to Bitcoin and really empower all the future use cases that are maybe more serious. And I think it's all well, it looks on the hood it looks on its surface to not be that serious. I think it's all actually very serious and very important for humanity that we have this technology succeed. So I think it's all, I do take it quite seriously from that degree. And I'm, a builder here and want to push the space forward and want to onboard people to Bitcoin. But yeah, I think, we're just going to take a different marketing approach than this very like kind of serious approach of, we have to raise as quickly as possible to get everyone banked on Bitcoin or something like this. And I really think most people around the world, like, they don't want to, I don't think they want to use Bitcoin as money yet. I don't think it's too volatile and not ready for that use case. And I think it's going to be in that situation for a long time. So if people want to use Bitcoin, I think they're going to want to use it to do things like, play these, casino games and speculate and have fun and have, you know, JPEGs that, have monkey pictures, right? And trade those with each other. Like there's all sorts of silly but fun stuff that will get people actually using Bitcoin, and that has drastically increased the activity on the Bitcoin network. And I think we're really just starting to tap into what that looks like. And meme coins coming to Bitcoin about 2 days ago, 3 days ago now. I mean, that's a huge step. I don't think people fully appreciate yet how important that moment just was.
Absolutely, yeah. I love one of your tweets when you said that, hey, it's time for now all the testnet meme coins to come to the mainnet, which is Bitcoin. And of course, under the hood, I think a lot of people are also curious how it works, right? So I think this space, this hour that we have, Leo, I love to go to some of the basics, and then we'll go to some of the practical stuff as well, right? Like, what are some of the early runes? How do we get to them? How do we use them? And talk a bit about the future. To start off now, going under the hood, what are runes? We have, ORD protocol, we have OP return, we have so many questions and these new terms, right? Etching, and like what are edicts, and like, yeah. So please walk us through the basics here.
Super high level, the very short answer is that runes is just a fungible token standard on Bitcoin. So just like Ethereum has ERC20, Bitcoin has runes. So this means you can do meme coins, DAO governance tokens, uh, DeFi liquidity pool tokens, like all kinds of different tokens. Everything you can imagine. It's just the primitive of a fungible token, a coin. Okay. So that's what runes itself is. And I think a lot of people, that's really all they need to know, and probably are just going to confuse themselves going deeper than that. But I think it can be very helpful, especially if you're a heavy user of a protocol, to understand a little bit more about it. So what is runes and how does it actually work? So runes is this sort of Bitcoin native approach to fungible tokens on Bitcoin. There's actually been quite a few standards for people trying to do this over the years. And runes specifically is embracing what's called the UTXO model, which is how Bitcoin works. Ethereum uses the account model. And in the UTXO model, essentially the way BTC Satoshis are tracked throughout the network is every address holds UTXOs. And you can think of UTXOs as little packages. And every time there's a Bitcoin transaction, what's actually happening under the hood is you're taking a package, okay, that's coming into the transaction. It's called the input. You're taking the contents out of the package, destroying the box, the package, and putting the contents in new packages. Okay. And then you can just take those packages and put them in another future transaction. So that's all the UTXO model is. It's a very, specific approach to tracking, who owns what on the Bitcoin network. And, Bitcoin as a crypto economic system is really only aware of BTC, of Satoshis. What Casey did was he said, okay, let's take this native packaging system and put other stuff in these packages. So he said, okay, if you create a little message in what's called the op return, a little bit of extra space that exists in every Bitcoin transaction, and you write a little message that says, I want to deploy, the token LongHash Ventures is cool, or whatever name you come up with, right? And you say, I'm going to create 1,000,000 tokens, and I'm going to, just for the sake of this conversation, just send them all to myself. I'm going to pre-mine all of them. Then all of a sudden, the Runes protocol, which is an indexer that runs on top of Bitcoin. Remember, Bitcoin isn't changing. We're not having to go through some long political governance process on Bitcoin. What's happening is people are running Bitcoin full nodes with a little modified indexer on top, which gives us a lens into reading these little messages in every Bitcoin transaction and interpreting them and indexing the balance of these runes. And what happens there is the LongHash Ventures is cool essentially now exists in one little package, one UTXO that I sent to myself. And that package I can then send to other people. So I could say, just like Bitcoin, so that package has some Satoshis in it, but now it also has the LongHash Ventures' cool coin in it, rune in it. And I could say, I'm going to take that package and use it as the input in a transaction. And I'm going to send it out to 100 people. So I'm going to create 100 outputs. And I'm going to write a special little message that says, evenly distribute all tokens from this package into 100 other packages evenly. And those will each go out to your addresses. So it's hopping on top of, there are, like, if you don't even know about runes, you will see that there's a package and then there's 100 more packages that the sats are being sent to, right? But there's also runes being sent there. So we're really just hopping on top of Bitcoin's sort of UTXO model package standard for delivery of Satoshis that moves around addresses. And we're just adding little messages to interpret that we want a certain amount of runes to also move inside of those packages. And in this way, when you think about Bitcoin now, not only do you have these UTXO packages of Satoshis, but if you look at them, they might hold some extra coins as well. And in that way, we have many tokens, many coins floating around the Bitcoin network being transferred to different people. And it's actually quite elegant. And there's great security properties of doing it this way. Great. I think many of the complaints of Bitcoin fungible token standards has been that you can't sort of independently reproduce everyone's balances. And it's maybe a little bit more closed source than open source. This is very easy for anyone to run this indexer. In fact, many thousands of people are doing it. And it all just seems to be working. This was all sort of theoretical until about 3 days ago. And then the protocol was released. And indeed, we have, thousands of these tokens. And I think nearing 100,000 different addresses holding these tokens. And the Bitcoin network is now, a protocol for transferring these runes around.
Awesome. Yeah, it's just insane to think about. I mean, we had the prototype, right, with BRC 20s, but now runes just seems so much more robust, secure, easy to verify standard, and one that I think a lot of the community actually has rallied around. It's just still crazy to me to see that, like, wow, we have hundreds of different runes there already minted or etched. And I'm also thinking about, hey, all these possibilities, right? Because there's so much flexibility in, how do I want to pre-mine all of it, as I understand we did with Dog, and then distribute it to the people I want to give it to, or make it completely fair launch, right? Like, hey, anybody can mint this. I'm just like throwing it out there. You guys can mint 100 at a time, 1,000 at a time, and it's the ultimate actual free launch, right? I think we've seen a lot of these supposed free launches on other ecosystems where there's MEV, there's like huge supply that's controlled. I guess there's still some asymmetry if you know about something earlier, but if you pre-communicate it and you open it up, right? This as far as I understand, probably the fairest mechanism there is on any chain. And of course, there are interesting possibilities. I was just listening to Casey on the Bankless podcast, and he was talking about how you could even have stable coins as runes, right? If you, let's say, pre-mine the whole supply to yourself, and you are Circle or you're Tether, and by nature of those stable coins, you have a centralized issue that controls the whole supply anyway. And hey, if you deposit USD in my bank account, then I can give you some of this USD rune stable coin. And then if you want to burn it, then you just send me the stable coin, and then I'll give you back your USD in your bank account. So it blew my mind how, like, hey, what? It's not just memes. You can do fair launch stuff. You can do project tokens. You can do stable coins. So I am amazed, absolutely amazed. But of course, let's make it real now. Let's look at some of the earliest list of these runes. And I know actually there were some so-called like pre-agreed or preset group of runes that were being launched on day one. Of course, they were like these uncommon goods. They're all these like Feihu decentralized. Right up there is not go to the moon. So Leo, I'm looking at the or.io/runes site, and there's an extensive list there. Would you mind just walking us through the top 10 here, just to give us a real, in real life example of like how all these projects came about, who started all these, and the various flavors that are already there?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, anyone can deploy these tokens. So some of them are very official, legit kind of projects. Others are literally just people having fun. It's very simple. It takes like 30 seconds to create a ticker, so it's not very hard to do. And people are mostly just trying to pick really funny names, I think. Is like the like these are meme coins, right? So you don't want to be overthinking this too much. But essentially, yeah, uncommon goods is the only hard-coded rune. So Casey created this token that has a open mint for 4 years. So if you're minting this token right now, you're flushing money down the toilet. So I would not be minting uncommon goods right now. Okay, that would be my basic advice there. You want to be minting uncommon goods in like 3 years in the middle of a bear market or something like that. Okay, Feihu is a project. I think they have a Twitter account. I'm honestly not, I don't have enough details on it to really give too much of a take here, but people are excited about it. Rune number one is obviously an incredible number, and they paid, I think, like a little over 5 Bitcoin to get that. So congrats to Feihu. I don't know what Feihu is. I'm assuming it's some kind of meme situation, but yeah, they need to announce more. Decentralized, so number two, this is the CyberConks community. So an Ethereum-based kind of NFT community that was, extremely prominent in 2021, strong executing team. They came to Runes kind of at the final hour and did it sort of some really solid marketing and airdropping, and really made a splash and just spent a ton of BTC to get Rune number two. So huge congrats to them. Again, not fully sure exactly what their plans are with the token. I don't think they've announced too much yet, but I think they'll be moving into the Bitcoin ecosystem, which is, if you're familiar, if you lived through 2021, very bullish to have strong IP brands coming to the ecosystem. So I think Dog goes to the moon. I think we talked about that already. We don't need to talk too much more about that. The Runix token, I don't really know about this one. Dog. I don't know about this one. Toshi Nakamoto. So this one's been really popular. It's basically just a meme of Satoshi, I guess. and I think it's got over $100 million market cap. It had an open mint, so there was 167,000 people, 167,000 mints. I think like almost $30 million spent minting this. I think the thing that I'm a little critical of about it is that it had a 20% pre-mine, which in my opinion, like, you know, I'm not a huge fan of just pre-mines on meme coins. I think if companies are building software and they need to set aside 20% of their tokens to pay their developers and early investors and all of this, like, that's very normal, right? They're actually doing things and creating value. But if all you did was just deploy a meme coin and it takes like 30 seconds to deploy a meme coin, I think the market's being a little inefficient giving that person 20%, because then you have this situation where there's an anonymous person who's probably just going to dump 20% on the market, and it's not a very healthy dynamic for the project to have. And I also just don't think they deserve 20% of the coin. Again, it's a meme coin. It's an intangible nothingness asset, right? There is nothing to it, right? It's just an idea that lives in our heads. So I think 20% is a little bit too high there. I think meme economics was deployed by the same person. That's number 7. RSIC Genesis Rune. So this is the RSIC airdrop project. They're a pre-runes project. They sort of are pioneering the mining of runes, where they have their own indexer where they track who holds these inscriptions, these NFTs. And the longer you hold them, the more of the token you get. And I think they've already done their first airdrop. And there's a couple $100 million market cap on that. So seems to be successful. Lobo the Wolf Pup, number 9. This is by the Buoyant Capital guys. So they're actually the ones who bought the Runestone piece for 8 BTC. They have their own project called Lobo the Wolf. I think it's kind of funny because it's like Lobo and Wolf are the same. It's slightly repetitive. Lobo, it does mean wolf, so I think it's kind of funny. But Lobo the Wolf Pup, it's another cute little puppy idea, right? So they're actually airdropping those to Runestone holders as well, which is pretty cool. So if you hold a Runestone, you will also be getting this, is my understanding. I'm not involved with that project in any way, but you will be getting, multiple of these sub 10 airdrops. Those are the first 10. We could just keep going. There's all sorts of crazy stuff here, but I think those are like 10 pretty big ones, just because of the low root numbers.
Thanks, Leo. I think we really see this variety of approaches and teams, from like capital to PFPs to I guess like more legitimate ones, which are there to test, like uncommon goods. I saw a tweet actually, the Runix one that you weren't sure about. Apparently, it's by the BVM network. So the guys who are building the Bitcoin virtual machine, right, the Bitcoin L2, and this is their room. Awesome. Yeah. So right now we're looking at, hey, maybe tens of millions or like hundreds of millions of market cap. A little bit of a degen question. Where are we heading from here? I saw you predict that, hey, by the end of the month, we're going to see a few $1 billion runes in the making. So what are your predictions? Which ones are going to be the $1 billion ones? Show us your favorite, aside from dog, or okay, you can show that too.
We got some work to do. I think we probably need some centralized exchanges to come in here, help us out a little bit. We've got about 27 days for that prediction to be accurate. I think I am personally bullish on anything that doesn't have a pre-mine. So I'm, bullish on dog, obviously. I'm not going to ever talk about tokens now that I own. So I'm going to not mention certain tokens, okay, which is kind of unfortunate. But yeah, I think some tokens that I don't own that I think are cool. I don't think they're going to be $1 billion tokens necessarily, but I think there's a token called Casey's Mom Has Got It Going On, which I think is pretty funny. And that was no pre-mine. Anybody could mint it. Let's see. I mean, as much as I don't like the 20% pre-mine on Satoshi Nakamoto, it probably has legs just because it's a good name and has a decent amount of holders. I don't know if it becomes $1 billion. That might be a little bit of a stretch. Honestly, I'm not sure. I want to see the non-pre-mine tokens outperform, but fundamentally, there are people who just don't mind that. I'm like, I'm not going to buy it, but People do seem to like it, and it does have a bit of a network effect going on there. I think Pups is another pre-mined project. Sorry, a pre-runes project. I think those guys are probably going to do pretty well. They haven't airdropped their token yet, but they're like, I think, number 13. I would expect that to definitely run pretty hard. Those are like some of the main ones.
Thank you. I know I really put you on the spot there. It's always difficult to, name specific projects, but I guess anybody who is early here, right, and who is actually thinking about distribution, having good marketing, sounds like they'll be doing a good job, right? Just by virtue of being some of the earliest ones. I think provenance tends to have good value on any network, and especially on Bitcoin. Uh, and as you said, Leo, we need a lot of work. We need the centralized exchanges to come in. And of course, I think everybody knows that the UX on Bitcoin and Rune still needs a lot of work as well. So could you share with us, what do you recommend people use today, right? So I want to get in right now. Let's say I start clean. I have nothing, right? Where do I start? Like I need a wallet. I need some marketplace. I need some sort of I guess explorer, and then later on there might be more, I guess, normie friendly centralized avenues as well.
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you come to the ecosystem, I recommend the X First wallet. It's just very simple, very popular wallet, great interface, supports runes out of the box. They actually just hit 1 million users today, which is pretty crazy. 1 million downloads, actually. So you got to get a wallet that supports this stuff, ordinals and runes. You send BTC to it. So it's a little bit different here. You actually have two addresses in your account. You've got your Bitcoin payment address, and then you've got your ordinals runes address. And you want to send BTC to the BTC payment address, and that's the only place where you're kind of sending back and forth BTC to pay for things. And then you basically, once you have a wallet, it's literally just like Ethereum with MetaMask. You can now connect to different websites and kind of hop around this Bitcoin internet, right? Of all these different websites that interact with the X First wallet or any of these sort of ordinals, runes compatible wallets. And yeah, pretty much like, let's say you would like to buy, like your friend told you about, dog, and you want to go buy dog, for example. Right now, I think Magic Eden is probably the best interface for doing that. So they just launched their kind of runes trading product yesterday. And essentially, you would go connect to Magic Eden with your X First wallet. It's literally as simple as clicking a button. You would click on dog, you would click that you want to buy, and it would, like, pretty much anyone can figure it out. Like, this is not the Bitcoin of several years ago where it's like super challenging. Like, if you know how to use MetaMask, it's very similar. And yeah, like Ord.io, we're building out exploring for runes, and obviously we're an Ordinals explorer as well. That's what we're mostly known for. And we're in the middle of, like, we have a lot of work. The dev team's been working around the clock for the last like 96 hours on just rapidly improving runes, and I think we've got some cool stuff we're going to ship there pretty shortly. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a bunch of different companies building in this ecosystem, and just lots of cool tools that you can kind of connect to. So like Luminex is a great product, Unisat, OKX all have products. And really, like, if you want to mint, if you want to etch, if you want to buy things, this is all fairly straightforward now, right? It's you know, the user experience does have a long ways to go, but if you're a little bit tech savvy and understand what runes is, you can definitely, figure your way around here, right? It's all graphical user interface. You don't need to be like super technical to figure this out.
Yeah. So the barrier is actually not that high if you know how to use MetaMask, right? And you mentioned the main ones to use. So Xverse, Magic Eden, and a bunch of others that you can use as well, Luminex and so on. Uh, of course, just to set expectations, right? Even though people are familiar with the MetaMask experience and gas and paying for things, uh, there are some quirks of Bitcoin just to make sure people understand, right? In terms of the fees, block times, and whether it's possible to put in bids or sell at a certain price. So you want to just level set here so that people, and when they see these things, they don't get shocked, or some of the typical pitfalls, right? Don't spend your satoshis accidentally, or make sure to use a particular make sure to use Xverse here and use that different wallet there.
So, yeah, if you're used to like Solana, for example, Bitcoin is going to feel very slow and clunky. We have 10-minute block times. So you're basically paying a fee. We don't call it gas here, we call it fees. You're paying a fee with every transaction to the Bitcoin miners, and you're basically telling them, hey, please take my transaction, please process my transaction. That means that you're now competing with a bunch of people in what's called the mem pool. The mem pool is where transactions live before they get mined, right? Where the miners are looking in the mem pool and just essentially taking the highest fee transactions and mining them in a block. So let's say you want to buy some runes, right? Or you want to buy a JPEG. You're going to essentially send some sats in a Bitcoin transaction to the person who has that JPEG or those runes that you want to buy them from using what's called a PSBT swap. That's essentially just a transaction that sits in the mempool. And if you don't put enough fees behind it, or the fees go up in the 10 minutes before the next block, you actually might get knocked out of that block. Other people paid to get in that block. There wasn't room for you. And you could literally sit for many hours, potentially days, right? So I always recommend, if you care about, if you want to be able to move kind of fast, I would just recommend pay 20% more with the fees than what everyone else is paying, so that you'll very likely get through in the next block. So understand that there's sort of a patience game here, where you cannot just click and move stuff around every second like you do on Solana. It's not ever going to happen on Bitcoin L1, at least. So that's the biggest change, I would say. And then, you got to have money for fees. So if it's a high fee moment on Bitcoin, you might spend $50 to do your transaction. You got to be kind of mentally prepared for that. This is not Base. This is not Blast. This is not Solana. You're on Bitcoin L1. We have 4 megabytes every 10 minutes of space. It's a very constrained blockchain that has really not changed very much in 15 years. So yeah, you got to understand, there's pros and cons that come with that. I think the reason you would use it is because it's a very strong, secure, decentralized network that's very resistant to like a nation state attack, right? But at the same time, it can be a little bit of a different user experience with 10-minute block times. So all of the benefits you get where the asset is on Bitcoin and stored in this really great way and very sound way, there's some cons that come with that, and you just need to kind of understand those trade-offs, right? You're not on Bitcoin for the same reason you're on Solana. You're on Solana because you want to just do a ton of stuff really fast, and you don't care as much about security and decentralization, and it's just kind of good enough. You're on Bitcoin because you're an artist that wants to inscribe your JPEG, your piece, into Bitcoin and have it be there 100 years from now in an immutable state, right? Like that's why you're using Bitcoin. So just very different set of trade-offs and different use cases.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that at least sets our expectations, right? Like you said, a lot of people, if we're onboarding guys from Solana, from Base, very different, very different. Although hopefully things will change, right? I think one of the things that is also not yet there today is that if you want to buy, you can just buy straight away. But if you want to sell, there's no, I guess, AMM or DEX equivalent where you can just like, hey, or like a Blur equivalent where you can just like dump into bids. Right? You just have to kind of hang it there and wait for guys to pick it up. Here, I think it's a good transition to what are we looking forward to, I guess, in the next 30 to 60 days, and then the next 1 to 3 years, right? Like, what are some products you think that you're excited about that people are already building? And I see some guys already come up as speakers. So I think right after this question, we're going to bring guys up to ask your questions or introduce yourself as well.
Okay, so next 1 to 2 months, I would just expect, so specifically for runes, I would expect just like more products launching, like Org.io, we're cooking some cool stuff. I would expect just more interfaces, more competition. Um, I think people are complaining about really basic stuff, and like I think all of that really low hanging fruit's going to get built out in the next 60 days. I think Rune's experience is going to be really, really leveled up at 60 days from now. I think everything will just feel more intuitive and clean. I think there's complaints where, like, for example, on Unisat yesterday, when you bought your runes, they were accidentally burning the runes, right? If you used OKX's marketplace, you can only use the OKX wallet. Just all of these little friction points, I think they're gonna get all worked out in 60 days, and the whole situation will be smoother, right? When you buy a rune on Magic Eden right now, it asks you if you want to burn your writ runes when you do that. You have to sign in the wallet. It shows the next verse. Like, would you like to burn your runes? Like, all of these little things are just bad user experience things where the ecosystem just needs to work through this, okay? Because we're 3 days into a protocol. It's going to be a little rough around the edges. We're gonna smooth out all of that. So that's what the next 60 days looks like. Hopefully some centralized exchange listings as well. That's obviously a great user experience that a lot of people will prefer to use than the actual L1 Bitcoin. And then moving forward 2 years, I would really like to see Bitcoin do a soft fork to allow for trustless bridges. I can't really take L2s super seriously without trustless bridges. I think they're just essentially, side chains or blockchains kind of marketing themselves as Bitcoin until you have a trustless bridge. So I really want to see that upgrade. And I think that's going to, empower roll ups and trustless bridges and a really robust, thriving L2 ecosystem 2 years from now, which I think is the future of Bitcoin. I think my personal take is we're too early for that. I think people are going to launch a lot of like copy pasted polygons to Bitcoin, and it's just going to be, mostly a rebranded version of Polygon with orange slapped on it, and that's fine. But again, you have to have the trustless bridge, right? Like it cannot be just a multi-sig, right? These are kind of centralized situations right now, and if you want to really be serious about this, and I think Bitcoin is a serious network, right? It should take this very seriously. It needs trustless bridges to these L2s. You're not going to get mass adoption of L2s as long as there's trusted bridges, right? Like I think we've all been in the space long enough to see the headlines of XYZ bridge hacked for $2.1 billion. Like that will inevitably, I will just go ahead and spoil for everyone. That will happen to some of these L2s, and it's unfortunate. And we need to be, I think, responsible stewards of this ecosystem and do a soft fork to Bitcoin so that all of these L2s and all of this activity on the L2s can be done in a more trustless, permissionless way. So that's what I want to see happen over the next 2 years. And I think that's really bullish for all the L2 builders if that does happen. But in the current state of things, I'm just slightly skeptical. Really, even calling them L2s, it's a little bit misleading, maybe. It's not. These things would not fit the definition of an L2 on Ethereum.
Right. Have to be wary until we have those trustless bridges. Well, in the meantime, I hope there's plenty of innovation, and I hope users are protected or at least aware of the risks. And now we have about 10 minutes, so we brought up some friends here and some guys who wanted to ask some questions. Nakib, great to see you here.
Yoshikai, Helio. Nah, the question is, I didn't have any question. Shikai, you brought me up. I came late, but I do have to agree with what Leo said in terms of L2s. Just all the Bitcoin L2s that's happening right now are technically not really L2s per se. Because if they are really Bitcoin native L2s, then why are they using like Polygon ZK rollup to build on Bitcoin and other stuff like that? So yeah, just wanna say about the L2 part. Yep, nothing much.
Nakib, what are you excited about? Well, aside from what's up.
Yoshikai, Helio. Nah, the question is, I didn't have any question. Shikai, you brought me up. I came late, but I do have to agree with what Leo said in terms of L2s. Just all the Bitcoin L2s that's happening right now are technically not really L2s per se. because if they are really Bitcoin native L2s, then why are they using like Polygon ZK rollup to build on Bitcoin and other stuff like that? So yeah, just wanna say about the L2 part. Yep, nothing much.
Like, what are you excited about? Well, aside from Onza, of course.
I mean, of course, on my side, runes is something really cool. I think you covered that a lot. I joined late because I had a call with Aaron. The thing about what makes me excited is mainly on DeFi side. I think Shika, you know me very very well. How I built one of the biggest DeFi together, which is called Kyber Network way back. You know those days. Um, the key thing is DeFi itself cannot be fully unlocked, right? Unless, like what Leo said, the trusted bridge, having a proper secure all these L2s that people are saying they're building. I'm just a bit pissed because they calling themselves Bitcoin L2s, but they are not. What they're doing is just doing what every other people have been doing back then. We're just using a multi-sig. Right, it's actually so much safer to use multi-sig at this point to the swap than on L2s, right? But there are kind of new forms of technology that's happening. I think Udi, I think Taproot is doing the cat VM thing from the quantum cats, out cat thing, which is really really interesting. You know, they plan to do so much things on that. I actually had a post on that because that is something I'm really really looking forward. That's the something because I had a long conversation with them and looking at how they're building it is kind of as close to the mother chain as possible. And if Odza were to integrate an L2 or the side chain per se, that it will be the one that I think we're gonna integrate. Um, but in terms of the whole Rune ecosystem, I caught a bit of a part where Leonardo said it's a casino full of shit show, but it is key, right? Remember, dude, Shika, remember back in the day when Ethereum launched, how many ICO did we ape in? How much money we made from all this just doing DGen ICOs, right? And that was the start. And after that, remember the BNB craze when the pancake swap came in 1 million APY. That kind of keeps kickstart everything, right? That's kind of kickstart a lot of thing, the whole DeFi sum revolution, and then move to the next phase, which is DAO tastic revolution, and then the rollups. What I'm excited is actually the whole Bitcoin ecosystem growing by itself because you are looking at all these different phases, right? We have the ordinals, we have the inscriptions as whole, we have the freaking layer twos coming in, layer twos quote unquote. You know, we have a lot of different things coming, all compressed into one, and this is gonna be insane. This we're compressing years of what Ethereum built and into one single year, or maybe I could say a couple of years compressed into the Bitcoin space. So that is what I'm really really excited about.
Love it. Yeah, speed running all of crypto on Bitcoin. Thanks, Nakib. All right, Yeti. I know you've been waiting for a while. Do you have a question or something to share?
Okay, I just had a couple of questions. First question, I know the UTXO model is the way it is right now. Is it possible to make it so when we get our pups, and I realize this is probably all already in development, so I'm probably sure it's tough to do now. Would it be possible to get 2 packets of our pups, or not pup? Decide if they want to sell both of them, or I mean, sell neither of them, keep both of them, or you see what I'm saying? So it's easier to decide what to do from there, because I know that eventually there will be a way to break up the packets. But right now, there's not. So if people want to sell, they're basically deciding, do I want to have 0 dog or, is that possible to have 2 packets go out?
Okay, so this is where I was kind of saying the user experience is going to need to get better, and there's like obvious things that need to be built. Yeah, people need to easily be able to split their UTXOs, split their packages, right? And have half their dog in one package, half their dog in another, so that they can list one package. Unfortunately, you're not going to like the answer to this, but you're only going to be getting one package of dog. Okay, it's to make the decision of giving everyone 2 packages would be like a $200,000 decision, and it's just not going to happen. Like it would not be an efficient way to distribute these tokens. It'll be up to you to basically decide what you want to do with them. You can split them. There are ways to do it. And there will be more interfaces for doing that. But for right now, it's just going to be one package, and that's the situation. So you're gonna you're
Okay.
gonna have to figure that one out, and that's kind of it's up to the
Yeah.
ecosystem to build ways to allow you to do that better. Yeah.
Yeah, and I knew that was pretty much the answer. I mean, logically, that is, that makes a ton of sense. I do actually have one other question. It's really not a question, it's more of an idea. And this really wouldn't work for dog as much as well, like for the next token you do or something like that. I think it would be kind of cool if you gave the option, you can opt out of the airdrop or maybe cut your airdrop in half and get an ordinal instead of that airdrop. So, because I think most people would say, no, I'm not doing that because, they like the fungibility. They like being able to, get in and out with part of their position. But that would mean the airdrop or the ordinal would be a pretty rare one. You know what I mean? Like if you said whatever the next airdrop is, you can choose. Do you want the tokens, the runes, or do you want an ordinal in that place? So then it might be a rare ordinal because not that many people are going to do that, or maybe maybe a lot of people do it. You could cap it though. You could say 10,000 is the cap or something like that. I don't know. It was just something I was thinking of that it would be a fun thing to play around with, and plus it would be kind of free advertising for the token and for the ordinal because you'd have these two things at the top of both of their. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, let's say it was dog. Let's say there was a dog ordinal that you airdrop to anybody who opts into that, and it's costing them a lot of money. I mean, they're basically cutting in half or saying no to the rune. I don't know. It was just something I was thinking about, and I'm curious if you think it's a decent idea or not.
So I think it's a cool idea for sure. Like I think there's some kind of novelty to it, and being able to opt in or opt out. I think there's people who've asked, can we have a PFP collection? Can we do lots of different things? I think my take here is I'm just planning on keeping this very simple and just making sure that these 3 different meme coins are airdropped to Runestone holders. And I think anytime you make something a little bit more complex, what you end up doing is you're making a fun game for the hardcore users, the hardcore people. But for the majority of people who are maybe a little bit more casual, they sort of feel left out because it becomes too complicated to understand. So I like to say simplicity has mass appeal. Part of why Runestone's been so popular is we didn't do all of these complex staking, mining, claim, all this other stuff that most people are doing with their pre-runes. You just hold the runestone, you get dog. It's literally that simple. And I think it's important that we kind of embrace that simplicity and not overcomplicate it. I think it all of a sudden starts to make it too intimidating to participate in the runestone ecosystem. And you will just kind of I find myself doing this all the time.
That makes a ton of sense. I don't totally understand that.
All right. Thanks, Yeti. Yeah, Bitcoin is simplicity. And Lane, your hand has been up for some time now. So
GM, thanks very much for having me up. The question I have for you, Leonidas, is one of the things I like most about Dog is when people were approaching you talking about things like listings and CEXs, you turn around to them and you said, you're gonna have to buy runestones in order to get this on your platform. Love that. And obviously now that kind of snapshot has passed, I'm assuming that people are essentially that CX are essentially going to have to buy Dog off of the open market or get it dropped into their wallets if they did buy runestones. I'm interested to know if you can give us any alpha on kind of how people have responded when you've turned to them and said you're going to have to buy it off the open market. What's the reception been? And if you can give us the alpha, who's been in touch, mate?
Look, I actually think most people like hearing that they can buy off the open market, right? Dog has 100 billion supply. So like runestones were getting quite expensive. Like I would argue it would be insane for most people to spend $6,000 buying an NFT on Bitcoin, right? Like I understand that the vast majority of people are priced out of that. So Dog is a way to basically have there's a lower barrier to entry, right? You can get exposure to Dog for like $5-20 or something like this, right? So I think a lot of people are actually very excited to become participants in this movement without having to spend $6,000 for a runestone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, I'm talking with all the centralized exchanges, basically, have chats in Telegram with most of their teams. I think, we're a little bit different than maybe how a lot of these usual projects go, where we're not doing the whole market makers paying listing fees, this kind of stuff. We're not doing any of that. But I do think, a lot of these centralized exchanges, right? Like they have the incentive to list dog because it will hopefully be a high value meme coin that can create a lot of energy and buzz for their centralized exchange, get people signing up for their product, generate trading fees, taker fees for people who are doing lots of this volume on a centralized exchange. So I think they're all very incentivized to do it, and like I'm not going to give specifics because nothing has actually happened, right? It's the dog needs to be airdropped first, but I would say I'm very optimistic. There's lots of interest in runes. Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey guys, I was
The
wondering if
alpha.
I'd be able to say something. I just wanted to follow up on what Yeti had said about not being able to split up the drop. So it's actually very simple. It's built into Magic Eden. It's built into the Xverse app. All you need to do is send the amount of rune tokens you'd like to sell to yourself, and it creates a new batch or a new bundle. You do have to pay fees. So I wouldn't recommend doing it now or when fees are high, but it's very simple. I used the Magic Eden UI, I used it on Xverse. It worked without an issue.
Thank you. Nakib, you have your hand up as well.
Yeah, just to check, Leo, like I know for the first drop, for the Runestone one, you're gonna add drop, but the second one, maybe can you do a claim instead? So like people, they can kind of claim. So I know because you have been getting donations to push all this and stuff like that. But the second drop, I just maybe just an idea. Maybe you can do a claim so that then people who wants to claim, they can choose, the kind of package, the amount of package they want, and then they are the one that pay for the fees to split the package and stuff like that. Because that'd be really cool. Because I'll do that, right? I'll pay for my own fees, to just spread the package and stuff like that. Yeah, just a thought for your second drop. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Like, ultimately, I just want to do like it's already hard enough to do these massive 70,000 address airdrops and make sure it goes perfect. Like, I like again, just for my own sake of making this be as simple as possible to execute. I'm trying to like literally keep stuff super, super, super simple and just make sure people get their stuff. Um, so there's a lot of like, look, if we had a company and this was like Runestone was a company and I had a bunch of engineers and I was like, we can cook up a bunch of crazy, exciting, kind of fun, clever, or efficient stuff or something. I think we could, get more clever with it. But we just have volunteers that are developers, helping to do this that are just volunteers, right? And trying to like literally do the most minimum, basic, simple version of everything, I think is going to give us the highest probability of executing correctly, right? And having a successful airdrop. So that's really sort of the how I'm thinking about this. Like we're not like a lot of these other companies that do these airdrops where, they maybe can do a little bit more technically challenging things or something like this. We're in a little bit of a different scenario being a sort of volunteer initiative.
Got it. Thanks. I mean, man, if you need any help, I'm here. My team is here to support, bro. Love what you've been doing. Runestones, got a bunch of them, because of all the things that you support, curse and everything. But yeah, yeah, anything, just ping me up.
Awesome. I think with that, we are at the 1 hour mark since we started. So let's end with a one-liner. Leo, anything you want to leave us with? One message.
Bitcoin was the innovation. I see lots of people asking, why are runes better? Runes are just a worse version of meme coins than what we have on Solana and Ethereum and stuff like this. And guys, Bitcoin is the innovation. The fact that it's on Bitcoin is the entire thing. So Don't overthink this. We're running back the last year of having these conversations of why do I need ordinals? I already have my monkeys on Ethereum. Why do I need ordinals? Well, it's NFTs but on Bitcoin. That's turns out it's a very important, powerful, strong narrative. So this is meme coins on Bitcoin. Don't fade us this time.
Awesome. Welcome to mainnet and don't fade runes. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and thanks of course Leo for showing up and sharing so much insight and alpha, and of course everyone who came up to ask questions as well. Have a good night or a good day ahead.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Great convo.